everybody, to our episode 10, which is the final episode in our first season. I can't believe we've completed a full season. This is fantastic. So we wanted to have a chat today about the interest rate change. But before I do that, I just want to go around the room. Everybody say who they are. Everybody's here. The full team's here. So this is Jerry Dwyer from the Dwyer team. Next.
Francis Fletcher, Dwyer team.
Hannah Beauchamp, Dwyer team.
Barbara Dwyer, Dwyer team.
Perfect. So we brought in Nathan Degiorgio today, the experienced mortgage broker.
The amazing.
Yeah, that's debatable, but he's very good at what he does. So we wanted to bring Nate in because today is June the 5th, and we've just had in the news the announcement of the interest rate change. So the reason why we're talking about this today is because there's a lot of question around how that will affect the variable rate mortgage or how this will affect the fixed rate mortgage. So we want everybody to be aware of what this means for you in both of those instances. So we'll turn right over to Nate. So Nate, first of all, thanks for coming.
Yeah.
So we were talking a little bit before we started today about the interest rate and how this will affect. So I think there's a lot of question, and you were saying that a lot of people will call you and say, like, how does this affect my mortgage? Yeah. So explain to us a little bit about how the interest rate changed, because it did go down 25 basis points. Which means it went down quarter point. So how does that affect the variable rate and or the fixed rate?
Yeah, so basically, if you have an existing variable rate right now with that quarter point reduction, then your rate goes down by 0.25%. Depending on the type of variable you have, sometimes variables have a static payment, meaning the payment does not change. Okay. Then your payment won't change, but you'll be paying more principal and less interest going forward. If you have an adjustable rate variable or an adjustable payment variable where the payment changes, then you'll see an immediate reduction in your payment, probably in the next payment or if you're biweekly, maybe not immediately, but like within the next two payments.
So does the client that has questions about their mortgage, do they have to call the bank to get the lower rate or just automatically takes effect?
It just automatically takes effect. Okay. So you'll get probably in the mail, I know in the mail, everybody will get like you're required by law, the lenders, to send out a cost of borrowing disclosure update. So they'll send them out saying, hey, your rate's gone down and your new payment is this, and you'll just see the reduction.
Nathan, can I interrupt you?
Yeah.
Will everybody that has a mortgage get that notification, or only people with the variable?
Only the variable people. So if you have a fixed rate, there's no changes to the fixed rate.
And no letter from the bank.
And no letter from the bank, and no good news, and no reduction in the mortgage payment. No.
It's a nice change from the previous letters for the last 2 years.
Yes, exactly.
But I think that's the biggest question that people have is people on a fixed rate think their rate will change too. Right. And it's right now it's only the variable rate.
So this is headline, like this Bank of Canada thing is headline news in the media, and they talk about it at length, and it's obviously everybody's kind of watching it today. It only affects the variable rate, so it has no impact whatsoever on fixed rate people. So if you're have a rate hold and you haven't bought yet, and you think my fixed rate's going to go down now because rates went down, that's not the case. So what actually has happened is because fixed rates unusually right now are lower than what the variable rate is. So the fixed rates have already sort of priced in the anticipation of this rate reduction. So if your fixed rate right now is the rate being offered is say 5%, and your variable rate was 6.2%, prime minus 1. Now that 6.2 immediately becomes 5.95, but your fixed rate at 5% is still going to be at 5%. So if you have an existing fixed rate, it's staying the same. If you're still shopping for houses, your fixed rate that you've been offered is not going to change in any way.
Okay, so people on a fixed rate, just to reiterate, people on a fixed rate will not see interest rate change. People on a variable rate, regardless of what variable rate that is, whether that will affect their monthly payment or affect principal, depending on how their variable rate mortgages is
right. It's set up, yeah, depending on what lender you choose.
So Nathan,
we're going to cut you off, Francis.
I had one question. To make it so people can better understand.
Yep.
Let's say a couple is coming to you, or they already have come to you, and you've approved them for a mortgage, and let's say they need a mortgage of about $300,000, and they are hoping to purchase a home this month, the month of June. would you advise them to take a variable rate, or would you advise them to stick with the traditional mortgage, and why?
So
And I guess in everyone's situation is different.
everyone's situation is different. So it depends on your comfort level. It depends on. Usually, I work with the clients and educate them on what drives the fixed rates, what drives the variable rates. So we know what drives the variable rates. We just talked about it. The Bank of Canada. The fixed rates are driven by the bond yields. So it's not really spoken about too much, but because it's not very interesting to be honest. But the reduction in bond yields is what drives the fixed rates. So when I'm talking to clients, I'll try to educate them and sort of make a decision together on what the best rate is. So as I said earlier, right now you're looking at least 1% higher on a variable rate. So you have to look at that 1% higher and say, at a quarter of a point drop a time, is there going to be 4 more rate drops before my fixed rate? If I'm doing a 5-year term, there for sure will be 4 more drops in the next 5 years. If I'm doing a 2-year term, maybe not. I mean, we'd all like to think so, and I think the writing's on the wall for the rates to continue to come down. But it seems like the Bank of Canada, as always, is very data driven. So if inflation jumps up, then all bets are off, and then we're probably not going to be dropping rates anymore, right? So all we need is we need next month's inflation number to be 3.1 instead of 2.6, and then the Bank of Canada is going to go, whoa, hold on, right? So.
And it seems like they're going. I'm thinking that it seems like they're going to just try to see how everybody reacts before.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, this will definitely be tested.
Yeah, because even when they held it last year, it was a big change.
Yeah. Everybody's going to be excited about this, and rightfully so. It does have an impact. So on that $300,000 mortgage, it's about $40 a month, which is not. I mean, that's not going to be life-changing money, but you see 3 or 4 of those, that starts to add up.
For first-time home buyers, though, it can be a huge difference.
It does, right? It'll pay for your Netflix and Disney Plus, maybe. So.
The necessities.
So how do you see it affecting the real estate market? In my mind, when I heard it might be going down, I thought, oh wow, we might get flooded with buyers now because it's gone down. Again, I was thinking of fixed and everything, not realizing that.
Yeah.
So will this just under variable? You think?
So I think it will. It will affect. I mean, this is all kind of guessing, but I think it will affect consumer sentiment because everybody will be excited about this rate drop that we've all been waiting for 18 to 24 months probably. So it will drive people back into the market that have been sitting on the sidelines. It won't affect purchasing power because you are qualifying at whatever your interest rate is that you're being offered plus 2%. So as I said before, the fixed rates are lower. So if you're looking for maximum purchasing power, you have to take, despite financial advice to the contrary, you have to take a 5-year fixed rate because that's the lowest rate that's out there. So that's going to get you the most purchasing power. And as we just said, that fixed rate is not changing today. So you're not going to see people with increased purchasing power from this. You're just going to see a general kind of like that dark storm cloud that's been over the Canadian housing market for the last 2 years is going to clear up a little bit. But you're not going to see any changes in sort of purchasing power from this.
So would you still advise, and I know you're going to say it depends on the buyer, let's say we've got 2 pretty good wage earners.
Yeah.
Would you advise them to take a 5-year fixed, or would you advise them to take a shorter term in anticipation of the rates dropping?
So right now, for the most part, like short to medium term fixed rates seems to be the sweet spot where people are comfortable because in that example before of you got to have 4 quarter point interest rate drops, like a 2-year term or a 3-year term, you'll be happy. You'll still be happy when you come out of that 2 or 3-year term. At the end of a 5-year term, if rates continue to spiral, those last 1 to 2 years in that 5-year could be painful for you because you're at 5% and you're seeing the rates have been at, who knows, 3.5 or 4 for a couple of years now, right? Whereas at a 3-year, you're kind of hedging your bets a little bit. So that's what that would be. For the most part, that's what my advice is.
So right now, no dramatic change as far as buyers' confidence, but that should affect. As you said, that we will see some happy buyers coming to the table that were on the fence because of the confidence in the fact that rates are dropping and they didn't maintain level or go up.
Yeah.
And hopefully this will help prevent some situations where people will have to put their house on the market, right? If it was going to go on for much longer, if they couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
At the variable
well,
rate,
now you can see if you're cash
ease.
strapped, then you're going to see this drop now will have hopefully immediate impact, and then hopefully later this year another quarter point drop. I mean, I don't want to get out my crystal ball, but
that's like my question is what can we expect for the year? But nobody really knows.
Nobody really knows. It's hard to say. Like I said before, one more inflation number that's too high and all bets are off. But I think the sort of consensus amongst economists as it stands today is you could probably see 1% drop. So you see 0.5% this year, maybe 0.75% to 1% next year. But again, that's getting way.
That's all speculation.
That's getting way out there.
And not as coming down as quick as it went up because it went up like crazy.
If we've learned anything from the last 2.5 years,
getting the letters every other month.
Anything that we've learned in the last 2.5 years, it's that the crystal ball is a dangerous proposition because nobody thought that it would go up this quickly.
Well, everybody thought the market would crash in COVID.
Yeah, right.
And how long has it been since we've had
drop? The last drop was COVID, was 2020. So like March, April, May of 2020, right when we were in the thick of COVID. That's when the variable went down to next to nothing. And then like a year and a half later, and just like went through the roof. Like 2020, January, February 2022. So it's been 2 years, over 2 years now. Time flies.
Yeah,
it seems like yesterday, really. Like it seems like,
and there hasn't been a change. I probably am wrong on this, but I don't think in the last year, I don't think there's been a change. Like it's been high
maintained
for about 1 year, right? I think the last increase was early 2023.
Would you say, and I'm hoping this is the right way to word this question, but because I've been in the business for about 5 years, I'm seeing the trends that have happened in the last 5 years. But what would you say is normal in length of time of when these rates usually start switching? Like, is seeing this be the first rate cut since 2020?
Yeah. So how long does this cycle last?
Of time, the cycle.
So
for London at least, and what in your experience,
the interest rate cycle it's usually like a 5 to 7 year kind of. That's the length of this. So you'll see these rates coming down over the next probably 3, 4, maybe 5 years, and then probably start to something will happen, and you'll start to see it go back up. If what happens, what we think is going to happen with the economy does happen with the economy. That's really what's going to drive it.
Is it fair to say that what happened was slightly out of the normal because of COVID and the demand and how quickly they raised it?
That's right.
Because that didn't happen over a course of 3 years.
That was because
it was 1 year.
I don't want to blame it on one thing, but if I could, it would be the government was just like giving out money to everybody.
Well, there's a lot of issues going on.
When the government's printing money like that, it's driving inflation, and inflation was like 8%. For like a year, and then they start raising rates, and now they've got inflation back under control. That's kind of the main driving force behind it. So
and that's what I'm kind of keeping an eye on. I'm watching the unemployment and the inflation.
Yeah, the inflation is unemployment is key. But the most important is inflation. They want to see that number as close to 2 as possible, and we're not there yet. Like it's on its way to 2, and it's been dropping like the last 3, 4, even 5 months, but slowly. Like it's down to 2.8, 2.6. I think it's 2.7 or something right now, maybe. And I'm sure, I don't have my calendar on me, but I'm sure in the next couple of weeks, there's inflation for May is probably coming out. Right?
Okay, so guys, let's just pause. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll come right back. Great conversation. Back, everybody. Thanks again for joining us. This is just a recap of going through how the interest rate changed today, which is June 5th of 2024. But we want to just make sure everybody's clear on how this will affect them. So we'll just pick up kind of where we left off here about some questions on how this will change the market, Nate, and how you feel this will affect a buyer from day to day, but really there's not a ton of change unless even on the variable rate you're seeing you said we're looking at a value of around $40.
Right. Yeah.
So
Bigger, obviously bigger mortgage.
Yeah.
If your mortgage is double that,
Well, sure,
300,
sure.
then it's 80. But again, if you have a $600,000 mortgage, $80 probably means less to you than
$80, but yeah, it won't be the end. You're right, as you said, it won't be the end all and be all of.
if you're paying $4,000. If you're paying $4,000 a month, like what's $80?
If you can speak to summary about, what you're thinking and advice and for this year, especially what's happening right now.
Like I was saying before, and you guys would maybe can speak to this a little bit too, but I feel like this drop is going to change consumers. They're going to start getting back into the market, which is in turn going to drive housing prices back up. So if you're waiting for rates, it's a catch-22. You're waiting for rates to drop, but then house prices are back up. And the old adage of date the rate and marry the home is it's better to pay a little bit more on your interest rate today with a better house price as opposed to having a 1.99% interest rate and paying much more for the house in the long run. It's better to take that 3-year term and then renew when rates are lower.
I mean, it's definitely less. It affects the buyer less, right? And they're getting the better property, and they're getting maybe a little bit higher interest rate instead of paying a low rate. And then when there is a change, it's affecting people monthly, and it can be shocking.
Yeah.
So as Hannah mentioned, like, you're not trying to get people concerned about the rate and then have to sell because they're maybe don't want to get in over their head. So.
And I think with the consensus is with a lot of the financial stuff going around right now is that people are just stressed and they want to make the best decision. Sure. So when it comes to a first-time home buyer looking, and if they're thinking of maybe waiting a couple of years to save more money towards their down payment, because that's also a thing, is that you need more money towards your down payment nowadays, would you still have the same answer to that?
So again, every situation is different, but it's better to get in, I think, now when the market's and it's a better buying, and you guys again can speak to this, better buying experience when you're not in multiple offers, losing out on making like 15 offers and losing out on houses like crazy.
That was fun.
Yeah. That's how, especially as a first-time home buyer.
That's always a struggle.
And if you've got that financing condition in there. If you're in multiple, again, I'm doing your job for you, but like if you're in multiple offers with a financing condition, that's been
a big thing too, is that with more of a balanced market that we're seeing this year, or with more inventory on the market, we're seeing more conditions, we're seeing more options.
Which is a great thing for people buying.
It's been more enjoyable for our buyers.
It's way more enjoyable to have a home inspection. I got 5 or 7 business days for financing, whatever else you need to.
I mean, those are the conditions on this buyer, especially Hannah, with that, as you're saying, with first-time buyers. It's always a better conversation, so they feel comfortable to get things confirmed before they're jumping in with both feet. I mean, so we always want, as our first conversation with the buyer, is that pre-approval. I mean, that's an important thing.
That's what I just realized I was going to say, and it slipped my mind. But with the finances, I think just the thought of them is scary to get started. And getting started with that pre-approval and sending in the documents. A lot of people, I think, too, think they can't afford a home, but they're not making the effort to get in touch with them to try.
It never hurts to ask.
Right?
It never hurts to ask. And then the other nice thing is you can lock in your rates. You can lock in your rates for up to 120 days.
Any fear with a credit score, though? If someone wanted to say, can I get pre-approved, but they're not quite ready, they might not want to go through with it.
There's ways around that now with like a lot of online banking apps, and Credit Karma will give you a credit score, so you'll have an idea of the credit score. I don't love to do pre-approvals without checking the credit, but I mean, if it's something, if you're on the border, then maybe we hold off on checking the credit and just find out the details as to why it's maybe a little bit lower.
What is a good credit score?
That's a good question.
700. Off the top of my head. Welcome back, Francis. 700 probably. 700.
So 700 and above.
700 makes it pretty easy to lend money. If it's like in the high 6s, you're still probably okay. It's more a function of what's in the credit score. So if you're 680, but you had like 3 late payments in the last 2 months, then that's maybe worse than right?
Building back up from 2 years ago.
That's right. Absolutely.
Did you say, we kind of had the conversation before, but was there a credit score basis point that you kind of have to be at
Yeah.
to be approved by
Yeah,
a
so
mortgage?
600 I think is sort of the minimum.
Oh,
but
it's
the
6. That's
most
actually less than I
lender-
thought.
Yeah,
Okay.
but if you're at like 610 or 20, you gotta have a pretty good reason. Like not everybody who has 610 is getting a mortgage. So
Yeah.
you need to have a good reason as to why your credit score is the way that it is.
Okay.
And what kind of things do they look at to form a credit score?
Yeah, so payments, paying on time, is the biggest one.
So a
the
car
biggest
payment,
driver,
a car
any
payment?
any car payment, any credit card,
What about
cell phone also shows.
okay.
It can't. Cell phone can only hurt you. It won't really ever help you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Funny how that works.
What about utility bills?
Same. So utility bills do not report. So cell phone bills report on the credit bureau each month. Utility bills do not report on the credit bureau ever unless it goes sideways, in which case they put a collections or a marker on your
Okay.
credit. So it can, same thing, not help you but only hurt you.
Okay.
So the main ones are any credit cards, lines of credit, loans, and mortgages, of course.
Yeah.
Those things are what help you. The other thing that drives it, so those things paying on time, is utilization percentage. So
It's the big one.
I have this conversation with people all the time. If you owe $975 and your limit is $1,000, that is worse than someone owing $4,000 on a $10,000 limit,
Oh, okay.
because you owe 98% of that limit. So
I found out
that's going to hurt you.
that being responsible, having a low limit credit card of $1,000 was a good thing, but I've had that for how many years now, and that was a bad idea.
Yes.
Because it's so quick. 'cause
The reality
it's
is,
small, right?
in this day and age, $1,000 limit, while you're a student, is fine, but because it's just a credit card to help you with expenses or whatever. But
as you get
but
into
as
the
an
real world,
$1,000
yeah.
once you get groceries and fill the car up with gas, you're at your limit.
And if you're over 80%, then your credit's
That's
getting
good money.
hurt.
Yeah, you're done. That's it.
I will say though too that a lot of it, especially with first-time home buyers, they don't realize is that when they get into the market with a mortgage, and those are ways that can also be boosting your credit even more, open up opportunities for you and opportunities because that shows that you own an asset and you're making your payments on time, so it can only help your credit.
And the other thing too, I would say, so with credit history, it has nothing to do with your income. So a lot of times I hear people will just say it like offhand to me, well, I got a raise at work, so my credit score should jump up. It has nothing to do with it.
Oh.
It doesn't matter if you make
Yeah.
$22,000 a year or $222,000
I
a year.
did not
I
know
didn't
that.
know that.
Nothing to do with
You're
it.
very informative.
That's
It's all about what your utilization is
okay.
and the length of time.
How much
of time
you
have the
borrow,
account,
right?
And the
Yeah.
overall borrowing. So I mean, if you have $10,000 credit cards and they're all at $5,000, that's $50,000 in consumer debt. That's a lot. So that
Right.
wouldn't come out well either for you.
Okay.
And if you have debt, don't be hard on yourself because so does the rest of the country.
Yeah, that's a whole other topic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Consumer
But there are mortgage solutions for that. There's cashback mortgages, refinancing if you've got some equity in your house. There are other options out there. So
Yeah, and hopefully we'll start feeling a little bit of relief for our variable clients
Yeah, I
out
mean,
there.
we're heading in the right direction.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
let's see where this thing goes. So
I
this was
think-
great.
yeah,
This was great.
I think this was a-
this was pretty informative for people, just discussing the difference between the variable and the fixed rate and how an interest rate change affects both and what that means.
yeah,
And
it's
where
nice.
we're at in the market today, which is a perfect way to end it for our next recap, which will be in September. We're going to take a short break.
September. How does the song go?
There's like
Francis,
12
take it
September
away,
songs,
Francis.
dude.
How does that
Wake me up
That's it.
when September ends.
She had a dance that went along with that too, but you can't see it on this.
Oh, yeah, we got to work on that. Get the video footage out there.
Next season will be video.
We'll do video. Oh, we'll do video next time too,
Gotta
so you'll
get
be able
my
to see
hair
us
done.
all.
Oh, are we done?
Thanks so much,
Yeah.
Nathan.
Yeah, no
Yeah,
problem.
great.
Thanks for having me,
Thank you,
guys.
Nathan,
Thanks a
for
lot.
coming.
That was good to be here.
Amazing.
If you guys have mortgage questions, of course, you know to reach out to us or the team. We'll get you in touch. If you have real estate questions, you know where we're at. And if you just want to talk because we're amazing, you know where to reach us.
Yeah, we have all these links on our website as well, so feel free to reach out. Anything, we're always around.
Yep, dwyerteam.com. And we'll
Booyah.
see you in September. Bye.
Okay, let's.
Everybody
Those
talk.
guys,
Everybody talk.
That was
Everybody talk.
awesome.
Everybody say something.
I wanna say
What's
something.
that?
You're supposed to be
Not
saying
clipping.
something.
Ah.
Are we okay?
Oh gosh. We're gonna get you on the
It's a good
apps.
blooper.
Okay, anyway.